Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Building Your Brand for Social Media with MAPS Coach Dina Watson. Please note this webinar is being recorded and will be available within 24 hours after this webinar has ended on the MAPS Group YouTube channel. You will find the link to the YouTube channel in your Zoom confirmation email, and we will also drop it in the chat momentarily. If you have questions for your coach, please type them into the chat box located in the taskbar at the bottom of your screen. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's all for me. Dina, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, you guys. As she said, my name is Dina Watson. I am a MAPS coach and also someone who uses social media primarily in their business on a day-to-day basis. And thank you guys all for being here with me on a Friday. I know Fridays are fun. Had some tech issues the other day, ended up actually having to buy a whole new computer. So this has been really fun last few days. But welcome to this quick webinar. This is going to be about 30 minutes, but you're more than welcome, like she said, to pop your questions, not only in the chat box, but I'm also going to share with you how to find me on Facebook and send messages that you have after this through there as well. So a little bit of an introduction to myself. I am an agent still in the business with a team in North Carolina. My husband is a Green Beret soldier in the Army, and all that means to you is that we move a lot. So I've actually had to use social media and Facebook as the primary source of business for myself and my team for years because of how often we were moving. So I've actually started my business completely over 3 times, and in about 6 months, I'm going to add another one to that as we move again away from my team. The premise behind this class came from an experience that I had when I was not a brand new agent, but a brand new agent to this marketplace. And in the first 12 months that I was here, without buying any leads or paying any money, I sold over 50 properties using Facebook. And I did not even really know the names of the streets or in the city I live. So this is all something that is very near and dear to me. Also something that I'm not going to stand up here and talk to you completely about making ads and things like that, because there are other ways to do that. I also have a little boy whose birthday party is tomorrow, and there is now a 22-foot water slide in my backyard, and I'm so excited to have a water slide adventure tomorrow with him. And the only other thing you need to know is I really like dogs. So if you decide you want to message me after this webinar, you're more than welcome to. You see on the screen in front of you how to share my name and what my social media page kind of looks like. Right now, the background picture is a little bit different, but that's the gist of it. So if you have any questions after this, please feel free to send me a message on Facebook as well. All right, so let's get this kicked off. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation around some foundational basics today. And my hope, though, is that this spurs some interest in you and gives you some basic knowledge on what it takes step by step to actually grow an organically produced social media business. There's all these classes that you can take that will talk to you about how to place ads and what is the right ad copy and the right amount of money to spend. And all of those things are important. And yet all of those things are not what I do well. What I do well is branding, storytelling, and organically growing things through social. And yes, we will talk today about some common ads that you might want to consider placing or posts that you might want to consider making. So there will be some of that here today. So step 1, we're going to talk about branding, because think about it, you guys, you're online just like everybody else is. And if for this 30 minutes, you can just put on your consumer hat and take off your real estate agent hat, I will promise you that will be very helpful for you as we go through this class today. So if you have on the hat of a consumer where you're buying AirPods or you're buying an iPhone or you're buying anything, right? The first thing that people do is notice things that they see and are familiar with over and over and over and over again. It triggers something in your head to pay attention. That is branding at its finest, right? Where a company or a product or a person, because you can brand yourself as a person as well, have created an environment where when somebody sees what they're doing, they recognize it. Now, it doesn't mean they know you. It just means that you're recognizable. And right now, when people see thousands of ads every single day, this is the most important thing that you can figure out. I'm going to say it again. This is the most important thing that you can start to figure out. And I know some people will tell you, no, you got to know what time to post and all of that stuff. And I'm not wanting you to hear me say that that's not important, because it is. It is not the most important thing, though. What would happen if you spent all of the money that you have in your marketing budget, like marketing things, placing ads, etc., and no one knew that you were the same as the ad they saw 3 days ago? The one you placed today, they don't know that it was the same as the one you placed last week. You're not getting any notoriety or brand recognition. So step one, we're going to talk about who you are. We have 5 goals for this class today. I want you to understand the urgency of why you need to adapt to the social media world and why it matters. I am going to explain how this works. We're going to talk about some 5 common ads that you can place and how to navigate a business page, a personal page conversation. And I'll give you some actionable daily things that you can do to grow your business. And the reason that branding works and the reason that it's important as number 1 is because without that, none of the rest of this stuff really even matters, because people will not be able to differentiate you from the person sitting next to you. I see we have, I'm guessing, a training room on here. So, hey, you guys, I think that's awesome that your office is doing that. And if all of you look the same to your consumers, there's no reason that they'll choose you. So we are going to start with branding. So here are some components of what people would consider great brands. And this is not my opinion. This is actually research that I've done on what needs to happen or be in place for someone to consider a brand a great brand. Not that they have a great product. I'm not saying that Coca-Cola over Pepsi one tastes better. I'm saying that the brand recognition is stronger. And here are the 6 components. Number 1, an identifiable logo. Now, some of you have teams and some of you have no desire to ever do that. Either way, you are still a brand. You should still have a logo. You should still have identifiable colors that allow people who know you to recognize your stuff versus my stuff, your stuff versus the person next to you if you're in that training room. So the first 2 things that are components of a great brand is that there's an identifiable logo and an identifiable set of colors that go along with all of your marketing. So as you're sitting here, I want you guys to run what you're currently doing through these 6 and see if you have any room for opportunity or improvement here. Number 3, most great brands, all of them actually, have a clear brand promise. And all that means is that you know when working with them what their company promises to you. For an example, I don't know if any of you are fans of Patagonia like my husband is. I always want to go to Patagonia and buy things on the Black Friday sale, but guess who doesn't have a Black Friday sale? Patagonia. You want to know why? Because their brand promise and what they want in their business model, but also in their customers, is for people to get outside. So if you show up to a Patagonia store on Black Friday with all of your money hoping to spend it, you're not going to be able to spend any money. And instead, what you will see on the door plastered clear as day is their brand promise to help people get outside. Think about that through the lens of your real estate business. What are you promising the public when they work with you? Next, a great brand is going to have a defined target audience. You've heard this a million times, but I'm going to give you a better example than I think I've ever heard. Most people would say, Dina, what's your target audience? And if I hadn't done this before, I might say, I serve the military. We are at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, the largest military installation in the country, people-wise, not land-wise. And I could say I serve the military. But what I've actually decided to do is go a little bit farther deep than that. Now, my husband, as you saw, is a Green Beret. That's a very, very small, defined audience of people who have a very unique set of needs. So I could say, I serve the military. I also serve the special operations community specifically, but you know who I actually serve and who my market actually is? It's their spouses. It's not the military, right? If you know anything about the military, you will know that the spouse or the significant other is usually the one making all the plans, deciding where you're going to move, enrolling the kids in school and all of that stuff. So although we do live in a military community, you will not see my brand with the American flag. We have them behind us. If you could see what's behind me, I have one behind me, but it's not who my audience actually is. The people who engage with me and my team are the spouses. So instead of just going surface deep here, I would like for you guys to take it another level or two. And if you have a piece of paper in front of you, write it down. Who is your target audience? Now, some of you will say, first-time home buyers. Great. What type of first-time home buyers? What is the situation they are in life? How old are they? We'll talk about some of that in a minute. Don't stop at the normal first-time home buyer conversation. Next, they have a clear design consistency amongst everything you see their brand on. Real estate agents, I find, violate this one more than anything else. They have a logo, they'll have colors, they'll say my audience is this, but their sign doesn't match the pop socket on the back of their phone. It doesn't match their email signature. It doesn't match their website, and all of it looks kind of crazy. The reason for branding at its core is so that you and your stuff is recognizable. It cannot be recognizable when you are competing with yourself in 5 different places and people are getting confused. So I do want you to stop and think for a second. Where is your brand not the same as you want it to be? Where is it not the same? Are all your headshots similar? Do you have a headshot that needs to be redone? I don't know, but it's a good thing for you to start thinking about. Next, they all have a strategy, and I don't mean they have it up here. They actually have it written down on how they're going to take the branding and deliver the message to the target audience. So the reason I'm camping on this for so long is because social media is all about telling a story and interacting with people. And if you don't have an actual strategy on how you're going to do that and get them to circle back to you to buy something, you have a link in the chain that might be a little bit broken. So think about that as we move on. Do you have all 6 of these, and are you doing it well? Rank yourself 1 to 10 on each one. And here's the other thing I hope all of you hear. It's okay to reinvent yourself. A few years ago, I found myself absolutely hating what I was putting on social media because now I knew more than I did when I originally created it. And we decided to overhaul everything and start over. That's okay too. We're basically going to talk about branding in the simplest ways possible, just so I'm not sitting here forever. Simply put, it's the promotion of a particular product by the means of advertising it. You guys are the product here. You are the product. How are you telling your story? What I think sometimes gets lost is branding versus marketing. A lot of you market your listings. You market your days on market, but you don't also brand yourself or market yourself. We all are a little confused here if we think that the real estate you are selling is the product. It's not. The real estate you are selling is not the product, you guys. You are the product that you're selling. Every single person in that training room can sell the same house. Every single person in your local area outside of your training room can sell the same house. Each one of you has a unique value proposition and a unique position that you are in because of who you are. And who wants to work with you may not want to work with me, but we all sell the same house, right? So we all get caught up in this, look at my new listing and look at my days on market. And that is all great. But what we're missing the boat on is that you have to put some of promoting yourself into your marketing strategy, into your content calendar. And as a coach, so I coach for MAPS one-on-one as well. And I have quite a few mastery clients, and most of them at some point have said, this feels weird. It feels self-serving. It feels boastful. And it does until you realize that you're the product. And if Coca-Cola felt weird about promoting the drink Coca-Cola, how much money or notoriety would they have? 0. That's their product though. So change the way you're thinking about this and make sure that when you're branding, you're doing so in a consistent way so that consumers can find you and identify what you're putting out versus everyone else. Now, I'm going to take a time out real quick because I think there's something important that needs to be said here before you all leave and go do something with what I'm telling you. Number one, your market center and the company that you work for all have guidelines on how you can and cannot brand yourself and colors you can and cannot use, all that kind of stuff. So before you go and redo everything, please check with your market center and your market center and the Keller Williams franchise on what's allowed. Each one of our market centers is independently owned and operated, and that's the beauty of KW, which means that what I'm allowed to do in your market center might not be possible because of what's written in the policy manual. So please check those things before you go out and change some of this stuff. So I think it's also important to mention that you need to be careful about trademark infringements, okay? There are some people who have branded themselves in this business so well that they've been able to trademark their slogans, their names, and even words that put together makes their brand. So I would hate for any of you guys to infringe on a trademark. You can look on the web, on the federal trademark website, and search for whatever it is that you want, and it will tell you if it's trademarked or not. That could be a federal violation, which likely will cost you a lot of money. So make sure that whenever you're reinventing yourself or whatever you're putting out to the world, you look at that, because I promise you, people who have taken the time and paid the money to have a trademark, they're pretty serious about wanting to keep everybody from using it. So step 2, we're going to talk about defining your audience and your messaging. And we talked a little bit about this a second ago, but I want you to actually write it down, and I'm going to stop talking for a second so that you can think. But think about this way. How old are the people that you'd want to work with? What are their interests? Where do they live? What's their socioeconomic status? What type of jobs do they do? So I want to make sure that I give you guys a minute or so for some space in your head to write this down. Even if you think you know your brand, you always have something to learn, right? Or your audience, you always have something to learn. So I'm going to give everybody a minute or two, and I want you to think about who specifically your audience is here on social media. And if you think you've got it, could you go one level deeper? So I'm going to give you a second to do that, and I'm going to stop running my mouth. And Caleb, I will answer your question here in a few minutes. Could you go one level deeper with who your audience is? And if you're not writing, I can see you. I'm just messing with you. It's always fun. People think they're on Zoom and no one can tell. So great. All right, so if you haven't quite gotten there yet, that's okay. This is not meant to be a workshop, it's meant to be a webinar, so we can always go back into that later. And Caleb on the chat box asked, would you recommend using the KW logo as your brand? So all of you guys, if you're at Keller Williams, you have to use the KW logo as part of your marketing, right? That's part of the franchise rules here, is that the Keller Williams logo does have to be with yours. However, Caleb, honestly, I wouldn't suggest having that be your only brand. One of my literal favorite things, and that doesn't mean it has to be yours, but one of my favorite things about this company is that they give us the ability to do everything that we need to create our own identity, but give us enough value so we don't have to leave and use it. Right? Think about that. My team, I'm a broker. I could take my team and go make an independent office, but the value of Keller Williams is there such that I don't. But they allow me the autonomy to create whatever I'd like. So I would honestly, Caleb, take full advantage of that. Have Keller Williams as part of your brand, but not the whole thing, right? There are rules and guidelines around the size of the logo and all that stuff. So go look at your policy manual and the suggestions on KW International's website under the marketing tab at mykw.kw.com. All right, so we're going to talk for a second about a micro niche. Some of you might call it a niche if you're in certain parts of the country. I'm going to call it a niche, and we're all still going to be friends, okay? All right, so a micro niche would be considered something similar to a hot button issue. And those of you who have a degree in politics, like I actually do, although I don't use it for anything other than mediating crazy buyers and sellers, hot button issues can be things like what you see in front of you. It could be all the things that we see on the news. And honestly, right now, COVID's even a hot button issue, right? But you're not going to brand yourself around COVID. But look at the things on the screen and think about the fact that in most cases, the things you see on the screen in front of you, people are either on one side or the other with. You don't often see folks who are kind of like, well, whatever happens, happens. I don't really care. You don't see a lot of that. So why I'm bringing this up is in your messaging, your marketing, your branding, your posting, everything you do online. You could either look at this like a hot button issue that you need to be Switzerland on, like, I don't want to rock the boat either way because I want to sell with both people. Or you could say no, because this is who I truly am, and I want to go really deep with this. I'll give you an example. Traditionally, gun control is a really hot topic that you're either on one side or the other, right? Like most people don't take the stance that they just don't know which way they go with it, right? There's a woman that was in this class that I teach, which we're going to give you the info on at the end. And she said, I'm having a hard time because I'm a gun store owner. I truly, truly believe in the right to bear arms. I teach classes on self-defense, and I'm having a hard time staying away from that in my marketing or my branding. And I don't necessarily know that I mind if people who don't believe the same as I do go a different direction. So instead of avoiding it, she decided to rebrand herself going through this class to On Target Realty. And instead of teaching home buying seminars, she teaches home defense seminars. She also has classes sponsored by her team that are for gun permits and things like that. I'll tell you guys, she was scared that the people in one side or the other would run away from her. And what's actually happening is she's on track to have the best year she ever has by almost double. Because what has happened is when she leans into her true identity, people who believe the way that she did gravitated towards her and are using her for their business. So if you're not willing to go all in on a topic, I would probably tell you before you start posting and branding and sharing things that you decide, are you willing to go in on it, or do you need to kind of be one or the other, maybe a little neutral? Because these things usually polarize people one way or the other. So before we get into the top 5 ads that I think, or posts that I think you should be making all the time, I'm going to address the most common question I get, and then we're going to move on. What are the best and worst times to post? Once you've got your brand, you've got your market, your target market, and you've decided what you're going to put out for messaging, people always ask, what are the best and worst times to post? The simple answer is the best time to post, if you don't currently do it very often, is whenever you can. Okay. However, if you're doing it pretty consistently and you want to be purposeful about it, I would tell you weekdays between 1 and 4 p.m. get the highest click-through rates, which means people are actually looking through things. The overall peak time throughout the week is Wednesday at 3 p.m. And that's not for my market. This is a national stat, so your market may be different, but this is the national average one. The worst times to post for engagement are the weekends between 8 a.m. or before 8 a.m. and after 8 p.m. Now, here's what I'll also tell you. I suggest to everyone that comes through this class or asks me about this through MAPS, I always suggest that you follow what I would consider the rule of thirds, 1/3. 1/3 of your posting on your personal page should be real estate. 1/3 for your posting on your personal page should be personal. And 1/3 of your postings on your personal page should be inspirational or informational. So you're either doing something or making some sort of content to inspire or inform, okay? If you follow that rule of 1/3, you will not necessarily be considered spam by anybody. They're not going to think you're bragging. They're not going to think that you're overdoing it. They're not going to think you're too busy. And they're going to also get the most important parts of you, your business, your beliefs, and your personal self. Who are you outside of work? Because we've all been told people work with people they know, like, and trust, right? People can't trust you guys if they don't actually know you. So when you abstain from putting personal moments on Facebook because you don't think anybody cares, you're actually robbing yourself of the ability of people to buy into you and trust you, okay? So if you follow the rule of thirds, you will stop being somebody that people keep scrolling past because they're like, oh God, she sold another house. Who cares? Like, I'm not in the mood to buy real estate anyway. Because we also know the stat that 94% of people are not moving every year. If on average, which what we've been told through KW is that 6 to 7% of the nation moves and purchases a new home every year or sells one, that means that if all you're posting is real estate, you're not getting to 90% or more. I'll give you a little room for leeway, but 90% or more of people. And doing the inspirational and informational and the personal stuff will allow people to get to know you even when they're not in the season of life to buy a home. So step 3, we're going to talk a little bit about marketing. And before we do that, Candy has a question. Do you have suggestions on how to become more personal? I know it may be a bit odd of a question, but I don't have much going on in my life outside of work. So that's not a bad thing. People think I have hobbies and I don't, or I wouldn't be so excited about a 4-year-old birthday party tomorrow. Although the water slide is awesome. If you want to check my Facebook page, it's on there. So you still have a personal life, Candy. Whether you have a social life or not doesn't really matter. And that's not really what I'm talking about. So I'll give you a very extreme example. 6 years ago now, I think. Yeah, so 6 years ago, my mom actually got diagnosed with ovarian cancer very quickly, had no clue what was going on. And I had made a decision at that time to be open and vulnerable about what our family was going through on social media in hopes that explaining how that happened would save somebody else. So this is a very extreme example, but my moral of the story was it had nothing to do with my personal life, my fun, am I going out on the weekends or whatever. But I decided to use the platform that I'm on to talk to people and inform them about how their yearly exams as a woman don't detect ovarian cancer. And my mom didn't know that. I didn't know that. She had a clear exam the week before she got diagnosed, right? They're two totally different things, but I did not know that. And so one of the things that I did that would be considered more personal, more vulnerable, is to use the platform after my mom passed away to explain to people that this was something that could have easily been preventable, but she didn't know, I didn't know. And so I was using Facebook in order to be a human being that goes through things like everybody else. And it's something that since then, I've had quite a few people come to me saying that they did end up with early detection because now they know and they've gone to the doctor because of my post on Facebook. So I would promise you that if those people were into real estate and had to have some sort of a transaction, they'd probably call me. So anywho, that's a pretty extreme example. I even post pictures of my kid. He's redheaded. I post the pictures with the hashtags gingers do have souls, because a lot of people say gingers don't have souls. Someone's got their hands up, giving me this. Yeah, I see it. I see it. So all of that stuff, be funny. If you're funny, be funny. If you're serious, be serious. If you have a quirky personality, be quirky. It doesn't matter what you're posting about, honestly, as long as you're posting about things that go on in your life that people can learn from. Step 3, as we move on, and thank you for your question, we're going to talk a little bit about how to market this. There are 5 common types of ads, or if you don't want to make an ad, you could just simply make this a post that real estate agents really should be doing. Each of them is going to serve a different desired outcome. So one of them is going to be for one type of person, the next. Also, I'm going to say this. If you start to spend money on ads, please understand 2 things. Number 1, Facebook ads are a high touch, low conversion game. I'm going to say it again. Facebook ads are a high touch, high quantity, low conversion game. So when you are or whatever, and you're like, these leads are crap, and you've only gotten 7 of them, you don't have enough to actually be able to say that statistically. So statistically speaking, 3 to 4% of cold lead generation is average. So if your game here is going to be to place ads, 2 things. Number 1, you're going to have to produce at least 100 cold leads that you follow up with to convert into 3 sales. That's just the math. That's average. That's not even just Facebook. That's Boomtown. That's Sync. That's all of them, right? Next, you're going to have to hold your money accountable. If you are spending hundreds of dollars a month and you're not converting anything, you either have to stop spending that money because you're not getting a return, or learn how to convert on those platforms. On a cold leads conversation, you're going to need to talk to these people between 7 and 15 times before they convert. This is why I choose the organic route. Yes, it takes more time, but it doesn't take a whole lot of heartache, and it doesn't take a whole lot of money, and it doesn't mean I have to follow up every 5 seconds. So if you choose the other route, which we're going to talk about, you can look at the next 5 things I show you like an ad or like a general post that you make on your personal page or your business page, okay? Also, you guys, don't just throw things out there and see what sticks. Tell a story inside the ad so that people feel called to action. Like they tell us in bold, if you've ever taken it, logic makes people think. If you can get to the emotion behind what they're doing, they will move, right? Logic makes people think. I'm going to throw this out there. Going through a conversation right now, recruiting someone, and I asked her this morning, what would have made you unrecruitable in the role that you were in before? And every piece of her answer had to do with emotion. The emotion behind her move, the emotion is what was behind her move. Logically, she was making more than enough money to stay where she was, but the emotion of what was missing is behind the move. The same thing applies to people buying or choosing you in real estate or selling. If you can tell a story about why that ad has taken place or why it matters or whatever, you're more likely to get people to move with you, okay? So Facebook ad number 1 is going to be the sale ad. It's the just listed, just sold. I want to tell you guys though, stop just posting, I just sold this house or I just listed that house. Talk about what happened. I'm going to say this, and I hope you guys know my heart with this. No one cares, but us, no one cares that we sold a house. Nobody outside of that transaction cares that we sold a house. And that is only one person. If you're looking to do this on social, consider what you should be saying to everybody else that's not a part of that transaction. Tell a story of how you struggled and it was hard and you finally made it. It almost fell apart 12 times. The other thing people assume about us right now, you guys, is that we're overpaid order takers, because we post things like sold over asking price in less than 2 minutes and they're like, why did I just pay you $12,000? They don't know that you about had to pay for 500 roofs and you lost somebody's dog and you had to chase the cat down the road to keep him in the house. They don't know all that stuff. They don't know how many late nights you spend correcting everybody else's problem who never read emails. I'm not talking about any of you guys, but you get what I'm saying. They don't actually know what we do, because all we show them is that you overpaid me. That's what I would think. So instead of just putting out just listed or just sold, consider some type of narrative. And if you want to take a screenshot of this or take a picture if you're in the training room, consider a narrative around the just listed and just sold ads that evoke emotion. Make people laugh. Was it hard to get to the closing table? Is this by far the sexiest house you've ever listed? And you're showing them all the parts of it. Think about that kind of stuff. Ad number 2. Here you go. If you'd like to know what your home is worth, this is the CMA ad. Click on this, it'll take you to the landing page, or send me a PM or DM or whatever. Also, I would love for you guys to consider Zoom consultations. How many pre-listing appointments could you go on if you had an hour a week slotted out in your calendar to give complete strangers the value of their home? If you did these for 20 minutes, you would get through 5 of them a week. How many people have more than 5 listing appointments a week right now? Raise your hand. And if you do, loud and proud, raise that hand. Okay, I don't see very many hands up. If you did this and you got in front of 5 people a week because you were giving out free evaluations, all they had to do is click the Zoom link and you'd talk them through it. They don't have to come in. I want you to write down in the chat box, or if you're in the Market Center training room, I want you to write down the number. How many additional listings do you think you'd snag if you did 20 of those a month? How many listings do you think you'd snag if you did 20 of those quick CMA evaluations on Zoom every single month? Now, you know what I'm going to do as a coach? I'm going to ask you to multiply that number times your average commission, right? So in your CMA ads, don't just be boring. Offer to do Zoom consults with people, 15 to 20 minutes. Post a link to Calendly or Timeshare. If you don't know what those are, they allow people to book times on your calendar without you having to talk to them about it. This builds your pipeline of future listings. Most people do these ads and they also say, the leads are garbage. No one answered. The point is, you had all those people raise their hand and want to know what their house is worth. Those are future sellers. And you got to them before they actually called a real estate agent. It also, for those of you in states that you can do this, gives you a list of people who would sell if the right buyer came along. If you had a great deal in front of you, how many minutes would it take for you to get that thing sold right now? In most of our markets, It's about 5 minutes. You could call 3 different people and they'd all want to put offers in. This gives you the ability to start building up and having conversations with people who would sell without having to list it on the market. Next, number 3, the FOMO ad. So create a narrative that gives everybody else the fear of missing out. You have something that their realtor doesn't. You offer something that they don't. I was listening to a podcast with Jason Abrams the other day, and he said he actually, God, I forgot who it was. He ended up going and getting some, back in the 80s or 80s or early 90s, some really big name in music to come and perform for his clients on Zoom. They basically had a 30-minute Zoom concert that was private. It was a client event that they did, and they got this guy to perform. I'll remember his name after we hang up here. But either way, the point is, take a picture of that, make an ad about it. Hey, our clients get this and you don't. I do this for my clients and your agent didn't. Create some sort of thing of value that you add to your clientele that allow other people to realize they're missing out for not doing business with you. He also told the example about mowing the lawn in your client's home as a value add for the next 12 months and putting out a sign in front that says meticulously maintained by the Jason Abrams Group, free of charge. These are all things that you guys could take pictures of. You're already doing some of this stuff. You're just not documenting it and showing it to other people. So the next ad or post you could create would be telling the story of you and your clients and what you're doing that's above and beyond everyone else, and give those people a little bit of FOMO. Next, number 4 are going to be the review ad. Or the review post. Here's the other thing. If you're branding, don't just take a screenshot of the Zillow email that you get. Actually take that out, copy paste it, pop it into Designs in Command or into Canva if you use Canva, make it pretty with your logo and colors and post it. But don't just post it in a way that allows you to brag on yourself. The whole point of this is that it allows you to be humble and let your clients do the talking. So when you post it, you could say something like, so excited, this family was so fun to work with, whatever, right? You guys get the idea of a review ad. You've probably seen them. But if you run a series of these, every single time you get one, maybe you post it on Instagram stories or Facebook, and you tell people, here's what I do without you being the one to tell them. Here's what I do for people. It lets people get a glimpse into the service that you offered and how you go above and beyond for others. So don't forget to post your reviews as well. The last one we're going to talk about today for a few minutes, and then I'm going to let you go because I am so sorry, but you're 8 minutes later than you were told you were going to be, I think. So I'll wrap us up here pretty quickly. Right now, you guys, I don't care what you feel or think about COVID. It is still the hottest topic, aside from Simone Biles right now. It is the hottest topic on the internet. We should be taking advantage of that by creating ads that talk to people about how we're doing real estate in a COVID world. I don't care your personal opinions. I'm not even going to give you mine, and they likely align with some of yours. However, the point is, people are searching for it. This is one of the most typed in words on the freaking internet right now. And if you don't have marketing that talks about COVID specifically, you're missing out on a lot of internet traffic right now. It has literally become one of the most searchable fields on Google. You can go on the back end of analytics on Google and see what people are looking for. Homeschooling during COVID, working from home during COVID. Why don't we have all of our stuff rebranded about what we're doing for real estate during COVID? Sarah Reynolds did this at the beginning. And if you don't know her, she's an amazing woman here at KW. She's got a very large team and runs part of the Empire Builders podcast. And she was talking about how when COVID hit, they decided they rebranded their buyer packets, they redid their seller packets, they did their ads, and everything they are putting out right now talks about virtual options and COVID-friendly home buying. No matter our opinions, it's a hot button right now that you could jump in on the traffic if you're using the word. If you're staying away from it, I'm not saying you're going to do poor real estate. I don't think that at all. I'm just saying you might be missing out on some foot traffic on the internet that you're not currently getting. Also, share the reviews of somebody that you've helped that might be afraid of coming out into the world while this is going on. Talk about how you're virtually showing property. You do virtual closings. I know that in Colorado, when this was really bad, they were doing drive-through closings. That's a big thing for the population of people who are truly scared to come out of their home. So think about how you could use that in your marketing as well. So if you have questions, I'm giving you a 2-minute warning. We are done with this quick and dirty little Facebook webinar. Please post whatever questions you might have in the chat box, or go back and remember how you spell my name, which is also on the screen up here. And you can send those questions to me afterwards. But if you guys do decide that you would like to take the full-blown coaching program that we have through MAPS Group Coaching about this, I'm going to share with you where you can do that. It's coming up in August. And if you don't want to take the class, I hope you have a great day. If you don't have any questions, and I'm going to read through the next 2 questions and go on. Dawn, yes, there will be a recording that would be sent out to all of you guys. Probably Monday, and also on the YouTube channel, which Angel just posted. So thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. I actually don't see any other questions. So if somebody asked one, I must have missed it. And thank you. My kid's birthday is actually a week ago, but we were supposed to be in Montana. And I'm going to show all of you real quick before we run a picture of this slide that is currently being blown up in my backyard. Isn't that, oh, can I do it? I might have to turn my thing off. Hold on. It's so fun. This is just so fun. I'm gonna turn off my background real quick, and then you'll be able to see if you care. All right. All right, so check this out. That is currently sitting in my backyard right now. Isn't it the coolest? So happy birthday to the little redhead. I hope you guys all have a great day. If you need anything, let me know. And if not, y'all have a wonderful rest of your year. Don't forget that coming up here pretty soon, MAPS is going to be having a fall business planning. So if you don't have a MAPS coach, you could ask us about that as well. And I'll see you all on the flip side. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.